I'm also here with Angie and Stephanie, co-workers here at Geotab. We're here to do a general overview of our new 5.6 software for you folks. So what I would like to just point out to you guys is in your GoToMeeting side panel, there is a place to enter in your questions along the way. Please feel free to do so. However, I would like to point out that this is meant to be a general overview of the software. For any deeper dives or any real specific needs or questions, we will ask you to reach out to your reseller. In turn, Angie, Stephanie, and I are here to support those resellers at any time. So we are here to answer and assist with any questions or any detailed training that you guys may need. Okay, so the point of this is a general overview of 5.6. Okay, so moving forward, I'm gonna move on to the software here. Hey, Steph, can you do a sound check and a visual check for me, please?
Everything looks great and you sound great.
Excellent, thanks, Steph. Okay, so guys, the first thing I'd like to point out here is, okay, I'm logged into our Geotab demo database here. This is the look of our 5.6 software. Most of you have probably seen it already, which is fantastic. I do want to point out the Getting Started and Help under here, the Geotab Guide. Guys, this is a wonderful, wonderful tool at your fingertips to assist you with questions that you maybe can answer immediately rather than waiting for your reseller or Geotab to respond. It's a detailed guide in how our 5.6 software works, and it will be morphing, if you will, as our software will morph, as 5.6 changes. So this is kept up to date regularly with the changes, or the small changes or the small additions that we add to the software from time to time. So this is very detailed. I'm not going to go through this particular Geotab guide in detail, but I absolutely recommend you folks do. Okay, by all means, if there's any questions or concerns, fire them off to their reseller, and we can take those up as a one-off. Okay, so along that, please feel free to take part and view any of the training material here that's posted here, any of the hardware information, lots of documents there. Geotab forum takes you directly to our website, and there's all kinds of questions and answers in there that come from both end users and resellers, and of course we're the ones answering these questions. So there's all kinds of data in our forums as well. Lots of tools at your fingertips to assist you guys with getting answers that you may need, and of course we're here for you as well. Okay, so moving along, I'm going to jump right into the Summary tab. The Summary tab is what we knew in 5.5. It was the landing page, the automatic default landing page of 5.5. Now it is an option to be a landing page. And as you guys know, it is meant to be for the dashboard graphs, which as you guys know are very flexible and very configurable. And these dashboard graphs are meant to be kind of a summarized piece of information that's interesting to you folks. Who are my top 5 idlers? Who are my top 5 speeders? What's my trending mileage for last month? Various things like that, depending on the data that's important to you folks. It can show up here in a summary, a quick view to give you guys an idea of what's happening with your fleet. And if you see something funky going on, it gives you the opportunity to drill down and find the detailed information you need. Okay? So as mentioned, this is now an option to be a default login landing page or not. If I drop down over here where it says my name that I've logged in as, I drop that down, you can see there's an options tab here. Also, just to point out, you can log out here and you can change your password here as well. The options bar, which is also found under the administration tab under here, this is an area where you can go to absolutely choose what landing page you want it to default to. There we go. So a couple of other features that you can choose here under the Options tab is the measurement system in US or is it metric? What time or how do you like to review your date? You can choose that. We do now have the ability to translate the software into French and Spanish, so that's an option as well. And as you're used to, you can choose your mapping information. You can choose your default view here for your map. What view do you want to log into when you log into the map? And then the last piece here is, what is the default landing page? Is it the dashboard graph? Is it the getting started and help? Is it the live map, or is it the vehicle device list? I have it on live map for this particular login. So there's your options tab right there, as mentioned. It's found here. Also can be found under your name when you drop down your name. Okay? Any questions on that, folks? Don't see anything. Excellent. Okay, guys, moving right along to the map tab. The map tab here, when you click on it, it defaults automatically to the live map. Now, you can go ahead and choose your grouping structure. If you have a grouping structure built in, which I'll talk about where you go to build that grouping structure in a minute, if you do have a grouping structure built in, you can drop it down here, and all of your groups will populate. You will see here that there's world icons and there's folder icons. The folder icons indicate that there are more groups underneath it. If you happen to have a really large fleet, you might have layers of groups. The world icon indicates that that's the last grouping level, and vehicles are underneath it. Okay? As you can see, I've already chosen to view the second harvest group here, so I'm going to leave that there. So what I'm going to do on the live map here is, when I drop this down, all these are the second harvest vehicles a part of this particular group. I'm going to select all. It populates them all on the map for me. Okay, which is great. Real-time data. This is live map, what these guys are doing in real time. This shouldn't be anything too out of the ordinary for you folks. You've got the square icon when they're stopped. You've got the triangle icon when they're moving. The map refreshes every, on average, 15 to 30 seconds. And the vehicles, anything that's moving, will move along on the live map for you guys. One of the biggest functionalities here in the live map, it is the nearest to function, which is slightly different. You can still, of course, enter in an address, a known zone, a Latin long into this particular bar that I'm typing in. And it is a live search. It will find it for you immediately. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this as an example. It takes you to that address on the map. Then when you click nearest, it will give you who's nearest to that particular address. As you can see, SH vehicle, SH655, is 2 miles away, and he is stopped. This is the address here. Here's the particular vehicle that's closest to. So that nearest to functionality is still there. If this guy, if you guys happen to know that this first guy here that pops up is busy for the whole day, can't move, you can simply scroll out to include the remainder of the vehicles, and their distance from that address will automatically populate for you as well. So you get a good idea of where your whole fleet is in relation to that particular address. You can see here this next particular vehicle, SH196, is 5 miles away. Okay? So live map isn't too different from what you're used to in the past. I do at this point want to point out to you this particular little icon here. Okay, this icon is going to be somewhat of interest for you folks just for the next little while, I'd say. The whole point of 5.6 is to move our whole solution over to the web version, to being web-based. Sorry. So to do that, that's a pretty big job. Okay. So this first crack at it is 5.6 here, and it's got a good percentage of our old 5.5 over onto the web. However, there are still some features that you must bounce out to the 5.5 version. That's what this icon means right here. Okay, this little bounce out icon will take you, if I click on it, you guys will see what I mean, and I'm sure it'll look familiar to you guys. So you still do have some capabilities that you do need to bounce out to the 5.5 version. So this is obviously populating. I know you guys know that this looks familiar to you folks as our live map version. Okay, so some things are still on the 5.5 version that we currently know. Now the way we're moving this is it's going to be a gradual move. All of the functionality that is currently still in the 5.5 will piece by piece be moved over to the web-based 5.6, and it will require a simple software upgrade, not unlike what you get from iTunes or Apple or that kind of thing, a new software upgrade. And then these small features will be moved over to 5.6 as well, guys, as the Geotab guide, product guide, will also be updated. Okay, so that's why that Geotab product guide will morph as our solution morphs into fully web-based. Okay, so I wanted to just point that icon out to you and point out that some of the 5.5 stuff is still here for you guys to use for the time being until we move absolutely every piece of functionality over. Okay, any questions on that?
Don't have any questions at all. Maybe we can confirm that people can hear, because I usually see questions.
Steph, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you fine. It'd be nice if one of our attendees could type a quick chat to us so that we aren't questioning our sanity here.
Okay,
Audio's okay. Very good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. It's just
thank you, everybody.
When you're talking blind, it does become a little bit a little scary.
A little scary, absolutely.
Yeah. So
there's a question. Is the 5.5 history map still in Geotab?
Well, good segue. So I was actually going to click on, show you guys for the 5.6 version where to go to the trips detail, trips history report. It is right here, as you guys can see. I'm going to click on that. We'll talk about the 5.6 and then we'll talk about what's available on 5.5 following. So if you give us a sec, I'm sure we'll answer your question. So I'm just going to click on this little yellow piece right here. This little yellow piece will remove and bring back this menu bar. So I just click on that and it removes the menu for us and it gives us a clearer view of the whole software.
Can I just interject real quick, Heather?
You bet.
The reason that we went to the little orange bars is this same software that we're looking at here, everything that doesn't have the little bounce out on it that we just showed you, everything that's in the web-based version, you can view this on your iPhone, your Android phone, your laptop, your iPad. It works on all of those non-traditional computer interfaces. So the idea is that by having these smaller buttons, everything is kind of minimized for saving screen space, because we are working in a world where the computers are getting smaller, the phones are getting bigger, and they're going to be one and the same very soon. So now we're just trying to make it easier to see the relevant data, and all the extra things like these buttons are made very small, and then you can expand and close them very easily to see exactly what you're trying to look at. I'll be quiet again.
No, actually, Steph, that was a good segue, because this trips history report, as I'm sure a lot of our users out there have found, is somewhat different than what they're used to. And I mean, you know, change is good. But one of the reasons being is, as you just mentioned, Steph, is we're keeping these reports very clean and streamlined for that very reason, that they can fit on a tablet, a phone, you know, simply, cleanly, and easy to view. So that is one of the reasons why you find these particular reports do look a little more streamlined than what you're used to. So in this trips history, guys, all the same data is here. You can see here, and in fact, a little bit more. So you can see here now that we populate the previous stop parked at last night, which is super handy when it comes time to report in terms of where they left, or where they ended up last night and where they left from first thing in the morning. So you can see the previous stop parked at last night. You can see, in this case, in the Second Harvest database, these are all known zones that this particular driver has landed in. You can tell by the name, of course, no difference there. We're naming it, and then the address will populate for you as well. And then underneath is the line in terms of the color coding that you've chosen to represent that particular zone type. So for these guys, Loblaws, as we know, is a donor. They donate food. Grocery stores donate food to Second Harvest, and then Second Harvest delivers it to all the food banks in the area, in the Toronto area. So blue represents the donors, and the red here represents the recipients, the food banks in the area. So this is an easy reference for Second Harvest to use, not unlike I'm sure you guys know in 5.5. The data here, you can see that what time they arrived at. When you mouse over, you do see the time that they started the trip at as well. And then over here, you see the total stop time, the total drive time, and the miles or kilometers driven to get there. So all the data is still here for you guys to use. It's fantastic. A couple of extra features here. The exception rules. The exception rules that are set up in your solution, now they show up in this particular report, excuse me, as a caution. As a cautionary exclamation point icon here, and when you mouse over it, as you can see, the exception rules that have been broken will highlight. Now, I do want to point out here, guys, that this is a demo database, and there's often duplicates of exception rules and items like that in this particular database, because we kind of play in it and create stuff and maybe not clean it up as much as maybe we should. So that's why you're seeing two different idling rules here. In your databases, you wouldn't necessarily, unless you have two different time thresholds. The other thing I'd like to point out here that's new in 5.6, which is this fantastic little speed profile box here. So this particular trip, you're interested, let's take this one, 22-minute trip. I'm sorry, 29-minute trip. You might be interested in how the speed that that this particular driver went for that particular trip. If I click on this box, it takes you directly to the speed graph, which outlines the speed that he was heading. The speed that he was, it outlines the speed that he was going throughout the trip, as well as it outlines the particular posted road speed. Now, I do want to point out here that this guy was going 15 miles per hour. I would have to hazard a guess that the speed limit is a little bit off the graph. The actual speed limit is probably off the graph at about 40 or 50 miles per hour, because it is downtown Toronto, and he can't move. He's probably stuck in traffic. So it's showing that his particular speed is nowhere near reaching posted road speed. So that's kind of an interesting metric there to look at. So we don't have to worry about these trucks speeding all that often. They are 24, 26-foot straight trucks that drive in downtown Toronto. You know, you can't move in downtown Toronto with a small car, never mind a big truck. So these guys, in this particular case, you do see, you mouse over, you see the speeds that he hit. Obviously nothing fantastic here to look at. The yellow actual speed line, posted road speed line, is, you know, quite a bit higher than his speeds that he's able to get to. So yeah, so as you can see, that's the posted or that's the speed graph. The speed profile for this particular driver for this particular trip. Now, to get back to the whole trip, I want to click on this back button. This back button all of a sudden becomes very handy as we are moving to web-based, like a typical web site. Now this back button gets you to the last screen that you looked at. This will just take you to this particular trip where it says view trips. If I were to click on this, it's only going to populate this trip for me. But I want to go back to the previous screen, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so now let's look at how do we look at our data on a map? So if I were to click on this particular icon, asset name here, it populates the whole days or time frame that you've chosen activity on a map, okay, which is great. It's the same great breadcrumb trail. It's the same stars. Stops that are starred are in zones. Stops that are in boxes are unknown zones. You can see the cautionary icons here saying that the rules have been broken. Again, same fantastic detailed data, great following the road exactly in terms of a breadcrumb trail. A new functionality here is that you can, what we call tooltip, right? The engineers call it tooltipping over the particular route, and you can see the speed will change accordingly. It's really extremely detailed data, which is fantastic if you need it. Like when you need it, it's here for you. And at any point in time, if I were to pause in an area, it'll give you an idea of the posted road speed at that particular spot as well. Okay, so there's some great data to be found here for you folks. Okay, as you can see, when I clicked on that asset name, it pulled up all the stops for this particular time frame. It also numbered them over here in reference to what's over here. Okay, the stops are still numbered in order of how they're made. Now, let me just clear map really quickly, because we do kind of have a playback if you wanted to see it, so to speak, in slow motion. You want to see maybe the first trip, take a peek at it, see where it went from, the second trip, so you can kind of play back piece by piece if need be, okay, to get a real kind of detailed outline of how he drove how this vehicle drove this particular trip. Also, if need be, you can go completely out of order. So, you know, you want to see the first 3 trips, and then all of a sudden you want to see this one. Absolutely. It does number it in order of how you've selected it. So this is the 4th trip you've selected it. It shows up the 4th one on the map here. Okay. Okay, okay, So before I move out of the trips, history information in here, there's a couple of little things that I want to point out to you. First of all, again, the bounce out. Oh, this was the question earlier. Yes, you can still bounce out this trips detailed report into the 5.5 version. Okay, it's right here for you to do. I'm not going to go ahead and do it because you guys know what it looks like. It's the 5.5, but here it is. This is where it's found. You guys can please go ahead and give it a try. If you have any questions, let us know. The other thing that I want to talk about while I'm in here is zones. We've added some great flexibility in terms of managing zones. Yes, you can still import them as many as you'd like via any Excel spreadsheet, which is fantastic functionality as it is. That has not changed at all. We've actually added the ability to, first of all, edit existing zones that are entered. So you may import a whole slew of zones via an Excel spreadsheet. As you guys know, they do come in as a standard box. Now, what you do have the ability to do here is edit the shape, okay, which is fantastic functionality. So when I click, and it's a left click, when I left click inside this zone, we get some options. Edit zone. Editing zone just means you're editing the information of that zone. Change zone shape. So when I click change zone shape, these little circles pop up that allow you maybe to expand it if you just want to expand it to make it bigger, or maybe it allows you to move it if you just wanted to move it over, or if you did need to make it a funky shape or size, you can click, anywhere in these lines and all of a sudden bring it out a little further. Okay, so it all of a sudden becomes a very flexible zoning management tool. Okay, whereas before in 5.5 you were only allowed to move it. You right click, you move, drag and drop, and that's it. So now, yes, you can still move it because you just move the dots over to where you've got to move it to, and or you can change the complete shape of it and size. Okay, so that's some great functionality. Another way to add zones. Yes, you still have the ability to click on add zone and go ahead and draw like you did in 5.5. But now you can also, let's just say, for example, we needed to add a zone right here where my mouse is. If I were to left click here, I can simply click on add zone and a box will pop up for us. Okay, now it automatically defaults to the street name, which of course you simply, if you want to name it something, which I'm sure you would, you can simply click on inside of it, left click on edit zone, and go ahead and change the name to reflect whatever it means to you guys. Okay, any questions on that?
Yeah, we actually have a couple of questions regarding the options. So where is it here? Can I bring up more than one vehicle on the history or multiple days for one vehicle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Good point. I forgot to talk to you about the options. So here's where you would choose your vehicles. You can choose all 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles. Yeah, you can have as many vehicles as you want show up. In fact, I should have more than one here. We can see here that we have this SH196 here for Wednesday data. If I scroll down here, now we have SH536. So yeah, I've got all the second harvest vehicles here populated for today's data. SH655 vehicle. Okay, so that answers that question. Yes, you can have multiple vehicles.
And then different days.
Yeah, so the different time frames. So when the options, this options bar right here, options button right here is pretty common throughout our 5.6. You're going to see it probably through most of the reports here. If you drop it down, it's going to give you the choices that you knew that you had in 5.5 and maybe a little more. So yes, you can choose our standard time frames, of course, and then the custom one is, of course, choosing your custom date. If it has to go from like Wednesday to Friday or something like that, you can absolutely be custom date specific.
Now the question coming up is, now can you show it on the map for more vehicles or days? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely you can. Yes, sorry, absolutely you can. It's just a function of, I clicked on this particular, here let's click on this particular trip, and then if you scroll down, if I were to scroll down here on this side, I can go ahead and also click on this. And then all of a sudden we have multiple routes. Second Harvest isn't the best one to do this with because they cross over each other all the time in downtown Toronto. So now you can see you have two different colors here. I hope you can see the difference there. You kind of have a light kind of teal color and a light blue color. I'll scroll down, and I can put a third route on the map there too. SH655 is also on there. Okay? So now
can you point out that the bar, there's now a bar on the left side of the stops that correlates with the path that the vehicle took, the outline of the path over here in the starred trips?
The colored bar on the left.
Yeah, this colored bar in front of the numbers, yeah.
Right. So this color right here, right, Steph, correlates with the route color that's on the map.
Exactly. So the more you put on, the more colors you get.
You bet. So this darker blue color here is in reference to the second route that I populated, which is the darker blue color right here. The third route that I populated, which is actually very light in color right here, is kind of all bunched up down here. You can see the particular, it's very, very bunched up down here in downtown Toronto. I'll just scroll in once quickly to see. There you can see that this is the third particular route that's all scrunched up there that you can see. It's doing a lot of stops in one small area of Toronto.
And Heather, can you show them how to switch between the map views from road view to satellite view and all those goodies?
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. So now when you drop down this particular little arrow here, of course it defaults to the road map unless you've chosen your options to reflect otherwise. And now we can have the bird's eye view here. Absolutely. The bird's eye view is what we know and love as the satellite view, so the functionality still remains the same. When working with zones, it's not a bad idea to, it defaults to have this angle view on, but when you're working with zones, it's not a bad idea to kind of remove that. Sorry, I just kind of clicked too much there. It's not a bad idea to remove that. Then you get the straight view over top.
Very good, thank you. It's just a little different than the older version.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Steph. Okay, any questions on trip history?
Someone's just asking if you can get a full screen map view from this page. I know you can shrink the sidebar.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we're limited to right now as far as full screen. You can get it fairly big.
Yeah, simply by clicking, finding this particular mouse over, you can simply move it over and the map will expand for you.
And there's just a basic question here. When you're zoomed in on the map, does it stay zoomed in when the data refreshes? Absolutely.
So that would be referring to live map.
Yeah.
And absolutely it should stay zoomed in. It should stay zoomed in when the map refreshes. Okay, on that happy note, folks, I'm going to move on down the toolbar here to the vehicles.
Okay, there's a quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Either way.
It was asked before, and I forgot to get to it. Is there a way to see the live driver at the same time as the trip history?
The live driver at the same time as the trip's history.
It's one or the other, correct?
Well,
live information.
Yeah. Oh, you can see the driver.
The driver ID.
Yeah, I think you just want to scroll to the top of your trip here, Heather, and show them where the driver is indicated here. And then if you mouse over the trip, you'll see the driver key applied in the breadcrumb trail as well. Hector is the driver.
Right. So Hector is the driver for today. I pulled the data for today. It's going to give me the latest data up until the time frame that I chose, because I did not limit my timing, so it's going to give me the latest data up to this time frame. However, and maybe this is where this particular question is going, trips history does not necessarily update live. Trips history is what it is. It's historical data. However, you can refresh, and it will refresh the data for you.
But to get a live view is in the live position.
Yeah, the live map is where you get, it automatically refreshes the positioning for you.
Another one is, how do you print the map?
Printing is a simple function of web versions, web pages up here in the wrench. When I drop this particular, well, it's a wrench in my view. It might be a little wheel, gear, or something in some of your views. But this particular little wrench, as you can see here, I drop it down and I get the, it'll print the page that I'm looking at, regardless of what that page is. If it's math, great. If it's the report, fine. You know, whatever you're looking at, it will print for you.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, so the vehicles list. The vehicles list in 5.6 is the vehicles and devices list in 5.5. It's the management page. It simply lists your vehicles for you. You can simply highlight them, or I'm sorry, click on them, and this gets us to the driver feedback capabilities to turn the beeper on. This is also where you're going to put the vehicles in the groups that you got set up and that they should be assigned to. So that functionality is very, very similar, as you guys can remember. You do have the ability to take this particular device, view it on the map. You can remove it if you no longer need that particular data for that particular vehicle and that device is going in another vehicle. It is where you go to get device auxiliary information. This is where you can do that if you have some sensors installed in with your system. You can get the auxiliary information from this one. I do apologize, I don't have auxiliary information with Second Harvest here. When I click on more details, we are getting, okay, auxiliary information here and any custom parameters that may need to be applied. Typically custom parameters, as you guys know, really only our support folks will recommend when and if you need to use custom parameters. If you have satellite units installed with our devices, there is a custom parameter, for example, when you're working with our satellite add-on devices, just as an example. But now when I scroll down after I click on more info, you'll also see firmware version. You know, if you want to enter in some information here, your work times for this vehicle, the time zone that this vehicle is in. If you wanted to define the engine type, you can. Different pieces of information here that you can work on, not unlike what was available in 5.5. Okay, very similar stuff here. Also, you can check the status and install info at this point. So checking the status, if I were to click on this, actually shows you the status gives you an idea of whether this device in your vehicle is communicating. Is our SIM, if I click on this, as you can see this is, last GPS record was 1 minute ago, so that's obviously working no problem. SIM number, it's in green, it's active. If it was in red, it would mean that the SIM is not active. It gives you an idea of the last data that was recorded here. Again, all of this was available in 5.5. It's here for you in 5.6 available, or as well. Steph, anything to add on that?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. Any questions?
None at all. We're good.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, moving down to drivers and activities. Drivers and activities, guys, the risk management report. Actually, this is a report that does have quite a few cool changes to it. So I'll just let me open this one up. There we go. So, okay, so the options, again, this options button, guys, starting to see a trend here, I'm sure. This is where you can now choose your time frame. In the risk management report, guys, this is, this is where you can choose your any rules that you've created. You can add it into this particular report to, allow you to do some analysis on that. So I'll do that in a second. But what I want to point out here for this risk management report, and this is also available in a couple of our other reports, is the ability now to trend your data. So in 5.5, you took a time frame, whether it was a week, a day, a month, you took a snapshot of a time frame, and that's what I wanted to get my data on. What we've added into a few of our 5.6 reports here is the ability to trend the data. So now you can look at it over the course of, let's say, a month, and you can look at it week over week in that month, or for a year, month over month, to see how my mileage trended or how my guys' driving behaviors improved over the last month's time frame or year's time frame, that type of thing, or even if it's a week, day by day. So, for example, I'm going to pull this report by month. So I'm going to say, last month. Let's take the last full month. And I'm going to turn the sum periods on. I want to look at it for, last month, week over week. Okay? So I turn the sub periods on, and I want to choose the weekly, sub periods for all of last month. Now what you would do here simply is choose your choose your exception rules that you want to apply. Common are the safety rules, the risk management reports, things like harsh braking, things like harsh cornering, You know, idling is always a good one. It's such a great way to get your return on investment. Harsh accelerations and speeding. These guys don't speed, but I'll add it in anyway. So those are some rules. Again, guys, you can choose up to and including 6 rules in this particular report. You can choose by device where you have driver ID. You can, as you guys know, you can still choose by driver ID. And here you can also run the report by individual devices or drivers, or you can run it by particular groups, okay, which will sum it all up for you, maybe for a higher level of reviewing the data, okay. I'm going to keep it on the individual devices, and let's apply changes to take a peek at this particular report. Okay, guys, again, notice the clean, streamlined view of this particular report. Perfect, again, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, for viewing on a phone or an iPad or a tablet of some sort. What you're looking at here as well is, if you'll notice the Show Details button here, what we're populating for you immediately is the interesting information, anything that counts in terms of how you've chosen to configure this report. Distance driven, of course. Idle time, of course. How many counts of idling over 5 minutes? How many after-hours trips? Of course, you have to have your work hours set in the solution properly. These guys, the work hours in this solution are 9 to 5. These guys always start their days at like 7 or 8. Maybe we should adjust that. So, and then you can see here in terms of the exception events. So the exception events that show up are going to, again, be the only ones that actually broke the rules. Okay, so you can see here that these guys broke idling rules. Ooh, this guy broke a speeding rule, too, once for 35 seconds. Huh, interesting. And he broke idling 81 times for 1 hour and 34 minutes. Wow, that's incredible. So, and then you can see here, here's the trending piece of the puzzle here. Week 1, so this is the first week of August. Remember, I chose it from last month, so the last full month was August. Yeah. So week 1, and now we have week 2's data. Week 2's data. Every vehicle is listed here for week 2. Okay, and then we scroll down, of course, you've got week 3 for the month of August. So this data is week over week here, and it's showing you what they're doing for those particular weeks of the month of August. Now, when I click on Show, what?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I click on Show Details, what it's going to show is, first of all the exception rules that you did choose in the particular report, and as you can see, the ones that didn't populate right up front have 0, 0s, 0s, 0s. Okay. The other thing that is still in this particular report, which is super handy for those folks that have deliveries and kind of on their guys are on a time frame out there. Like I do know Second Harvest should never have a stop that's more than 30 minutes. And interestingly enough, this particular one has 4 that are greater than 50, but it does still show you the stop counts by time. Total number of stops for this particular week: 23 were made less than 10 minutes, 20 were greater than 10 minutes. 5 were greater than 20 minutes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this detailed data is still in here as well for you folks to work with when you've got, you know, kind of time limits on your stops. Steph, did you want to add something?
Yeah, can you go up to the reports and bounce that risk management report out to Excel?
You bet, you bet. Good segue. So guys, again, the custom reporting feature is still here. This reports button is going to drop down. The ability to flip the data you're looking at and look at it in terms of in a PDF. If I were to click on this particular bar right here, it flips it into PDF for you. Okay, if I click on this Excel icon, it flips it into Excel, and this is really the most useful tool here. I do just want to point out, guys, that these are reports that we've created and played with and stuff. They won't be in your databases, largely won't be necessary. The one that's important to you folks, of course, is anything that has the word default. Default means that it's taking this data we're looking at and flipping it into Excel. There we go. Did you want to add something here, Steph, or?
No, I mean, I just wanted them to see the period numbers on the report so that you can see the one vehicle's 5 periods together. I think it conveys the data really well. If you have driver scorecarding done in your risk management report, you can then do a trend line graph of whether the guy's trending, you know, is he getting safer, is he driving more aggressively? You can see that in a very visual way. Week over week, month over month. It's just very cool data.
I agree. I agree. And this risk management report in Excel here is probably the most popular report we use for our custom reporting. Angie does a lot of our Excel work here, and yeah, she's agreeing with me.
It has a lot of the information that most people want to report on. Because it has the ability to put in those 6 exception rules, you can report on anything you really want to. Any rule that you've created, you can report on it. And you can report on it based on distance. You can report on it based on drive time, based on maybe number of stops, whatever. It's very, very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Any questions?
We have a question about how are you determining harsh cornering and jackrabbit starts?
Okay, so what we'll do is if you can give us a sec and get to the rules, because there's actually a definition in the rules. The rules, maybe I should segue there right now because it is 2:15. I mean, let me segue.
I would go to the rules, the default rules that are built in, and the rest of the stuff we can do in detailed training, one-on-one or whatever.
You bet, you bet, you bet, you bet. Some of these other items we've kind of covered off anyway. For example, the speed graph we covered off, drivers is driver ID. Anywhere you see the bounce out, guys, that bounce out is 5.5. So there's really not very much change there. So you should be very familiar with that as it is. So when I go to rules, rules is an area, absolutely, that has changed quite a bit. It's actually become, well, it was pretty powerful to begin with, but now it's super powerful and easier at the same time, which is interesting. But as you can see here, guys, we have grouped canned rules here by kind of the category that they fall under. So the safety rules here, obviously harsh braking, acceleration, cornering, and I'll give you a second to review those definitions in a second, but you can see here speeding. Speeding over posted road speed here, guys. When you turn this one on, you can choose your speed over posted road speed to assist you folks with, now it's not only a maximum, although you can still have a maximum in here. Let me know when my guys speed greater than 120 kilometers or 75 miles an hour. That's absolutely doable, but also have the option here to let you know when they've sped, 6 miles an hour or 10 kilometers per hour over posted road speed. Okay, so there's options there for you. Seatbelt use where we capture it off the engine, fantastic. After hours usage, possible accidents. Okay, so some great safety rules there. Canned. Literally all you need to do is turn it on and save it, and it's on for the whole fleet and recording. Okay, so it can be that simple. Okay, so now let me scroll down here quickly. Productivity. Productivity rules based on efficiency, largely based on time. Make sure that your fleet out there is managing their time correctly, that you're paying for them for what they're working. Very, very handy, can be a big ROI and rather quick ROI on this particular productivity side of things, but it's based on time, late arrival, early leave, unauthorized home stops. You guys get the ability to edit the hours in here. Of course, these often do reflect the need for proper zones to be entered in. For unauthorized home stops, logically, you would need your employees' homes entered in as zones, which is simple. So productivity rules, very much the same. On, off, very, very simple to turn on. Fleet rules, this helps us speak to a little bit, gives you guys a little bit of a simple insight into the engine health. Engine light, you can turn it on and let you know when the engine light is on. You no longer have to rely on your guys driving to tell you when the engine light is turned on. Now you can be notified immediately. Battery drain, tampering with the device, revving the engine, so RPM abuse here, and then of course reversing while leaving. We have put in a description here for each of these rules to help you define in terms of a harsh braking, acceleration, cornering. As you can see here, a simple description here when these are turned on is a drop in speed of either 17 kilometers per hour or 10 miles per hour in a single second for the harsh brake. Okay, so that's a very, very simple definition that you can use as a guideline that's going to help you define what a harsh brake is. And then we kind of help to define it in terms of what you're going to feel in the vehicle. The seatbelt's going to jam up on you or you're going to be thrown forward. Yeah, thrown forward a little bit. Okay, so that should answer that question, correct? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Roundabout way of getting there, but it was answered. So What you can do with some of these rules as well is, as you can see, you do have the ability to edit them. When you turn them on in these particular harsh braking, acceleration, cornering rules, you're going to have the ability to slide this based on what type of vehicles you have. If you have different types of vehicles in your fleet, it's a simple matter of grouping your vehicles by those types and having a couple of different rules set up. Have one rule set up for the heavy-duty guys, have another rule set up for the passenger, the light-duty guys. So it's a very, very simple process. Every single one of these rules can also be set up to be emailed to you guys, or to whomever you choose in real time. I think a good example of this one is the possible accident. So we're going to be able to tell you, as you know, when a possible accident has occurred. Now we do say possible because knocking or kicking or booting the device can potentially create an accident level piece of data. However, I will tell you, our engineers have worked very, very hard at filtering that type of data out, because there's very much a difference in terms of the time frame of a kick and the actual time frame of an accident. So that has a lot to do with what we're filtering. A kick is a lot quicker than an actual crash. Okay, so we're taking that those sort of things into consideration when we're receiving these incidents. Okay, but we still want to let you know, and in fact, honestly, we hope it's just a kick. We don't want your guys to get in accidents.
There is actually, Heather, there's actually a log record in the accident and log details report that says possible device knocked event. So it kind of separates it out even further from a possible accident.
Excellent. So that populates into the accident detail report, right, which is found right here. Okay, same report that was available in 5.5 has been moved over to 5.6. Extremely, extremely detailed report, not necessary to use unless there has been an accident that has occurred and you do want to go in and pull the accident data. Because when this possible accident has occurred, 90 seconds, is it 90 seconds, Steph, of second-by-second data?
Yeah.
It's 90
minute
seconds.
And a half, something like that.
Yeah. 90 seconds of second-by-second data does populate, as Steph said, into this view accidents and log data report. And it lays out detailed data. Of course, then you know the speed they were going, you know if there was harsh braking, acceleration, cornering, you know, which will give you an idea of a lane or a harsh lane change. Various things like that we'll be able to see in this particular report in detail. Also, you can take that and put it on a map, and you can look at that hunk of accident data on a map to kind of give you an idea of, you know, where they were. They may have been at an intersection. Did they, you know, go over and kind of cross the line and hit a pole on the other side of the road? You know, God forbid, maybe they fell asleep. But anyway, it will help to define the activity that occurred with that driver leading up to that accident. Okay? And then, of course, with this possible accident, turning it on and creating an automatic notification when it's occurred allows you folks to then act quickly for two reasons. Of course, the main reason for driver safety, right? You guys always want to make sure that your drivers are safe and everything's okay with them. But you also want to make sure that business is flowing smoothly. So if this guy over here gets in an accident, unfortunately, you know, hopefully everything's okay, but he might be tied up for a couple of hours doing his reports with the police officer and whatnot. Well, that gives you a real-time ability to, you know, get somebody else to take over that guy's call. So it allows your business to flow smoothly as well as you're looking out for driver safety. Okay? Okay, any questions?
Heather, there's one quick question here on the how do you turn the rules on and off. And the rules are controlled by security clearances. So if you can't interact with the rules, somebody in a higher level in your organization is going to have to turn them on and off for you. They may have established that these are the rules that we're going to monitor for the next, you know, 6 months or whatever, and then you know, they may make a change in the future, and that higher level in the organization will be making that change. Does that make sense?
It does. It totally makes sense. And in the security clearances, which, guys, is the same as 5.5 currently under the administration tab, under users, you're going to find security clearances. It's not necessarily recommended that everybody within your organization have access to the rules. You guys set your rules. This is what your drivers are aware of in terms of your rules. You don't want anybody necessarily messing around with those rules and tweaking and playing and turning them off or creating another one or, you know, various things like that. So, so yeah, Stephanie's absolutely right. Under the clearances here, which is a bounce out to 5.5, you can they may very well be turned off or grayed out for the ability to turn them on and off, and for that very reason that you don't necessarily want everybody messing with them, right?
You take your eye off. You take your eye off the prize if you change what the rules are, you know, partway through your process. You don't get to the level of success that you want on the current set of, you know, goals or objectives for the fleet for this period. The last question that I see here on the rules is, when you tick these on and off, are you ticking them for the whole fleet or for a group? So go ahead, I'll let you cover that.
When you're just using this simple on and off feature here, it's for the whole fleet. Okay, it's made to be that simple. There's often, more often than not, just you want to come in, you just want the harsh brake rule, for example, on for the whole fleet. You turn it on, you walk away, you're done. It's simple. However, if you do want to be group specific, you simply come in here to the edit button, and it allows you to be group specific right here. Now I can change. Now I can choose the group that I want this rule to apply to. And this goes actually not a bad question stemming from the different vehicle types. I want this group, this particular rule to be for the light duty vehicle group, right?
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
Okay, so if it's okay, if there's no more further questions, there is one other thing that I wanted to quickly point out. Is there any other questions there, Ange?
So go ahead, Steph.
There's a question here about, can you detect if a jamming device is being used? Jamming devices are illegal, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. We have found them in the fleets in the past. What you're going to find is that that particular event is going to show up in your watchdog report. Heather, can you just bounce back to the dashboard on the front that shows the watchdog?
Sure, absolutely.
A device that's not communicating or not driving, one that has its GPS jammed, it's still going to communicate on the cellular network. It's just not going to be able to tell you where it's at, because that GPS signal is being smothered, if you will. You can't tell where it's at. So you're going to see that it's going to show up as that OK, not driving, and you're going to double click on that graphic and you're going to say, well, I know that vehicle is driving, there's something wrong. When you go out and inspect the vehicle, I'm sure that you'll find that there's a small little 5 or 6 inch antenna device that it plugs into a cigarette lighter, and that's all the GPS jammer is. It'll fit in the guy's pocket when he gets in and out of the vehicle, just so you know. But it's going to show up as not driving. It will show up as communicating.
Huh.
Someone's just asking how you would add the watchdog to the dashboard. In 5.6, it is a standard report that comes with every database. It's very simple. It's just as simple as clicking on the watchdog report, going to enable dashboard. You always have to remember when you're enabling the dashboard that you have to click show help status. If you don't choose show help status, it's not going to get that health or communication information. And then you can set the data, what time you want it to run, if you want it to be for the entire organization or particular groups that you want to report on. We can go more into detail about the reports at another time, but that's the very simple way to turn it on, and it will just populate on the dashboard.
If you double click on the watchdog graphic, it will tell you where the device was when it was unplugged. And if this is the latest version, it has a link to show you where the device was unplugged. So if you go back to the report tab, because that's another one of the questions that we have here, if you go to the right, the one here that's not communicating for 173 days, click to see location, and you'll see where it was at the Ontario Truck Center. It's a pretty good guess it went in for service or to be decommissioned, which is, I think, the case on this particular vehicle. And that's where it was when we lost sight of it.
And that just brings you, that doesn't bring you to the software itself, but it does bring you to a big map, which is the map that we use by default in the software. So you can zoom in as far as you want. Depends on where the area is. You might even be able to see a street view of where it is. You can full on see that it's at a shop or a residence or something like that.
Yeah, the one thing that we didn't show is the street view is now available on a what is it, left click on the map. If you put it on we got to go back to Checkmate. I forget where I'm at. I got lost. Just zoom in to some point on the map and let's just show them how you do the street view, because it's a little different, a little bit the same. It doesn't go to a new web page, it just opens it in this web page. Then you'd use the back button to get back to where you were in the map.
So it was a simple left click on the map. Takes you directly to the street view that we had available, but as Steph said, it didn't open it in a new tab. It just populated it right here for you. And then as Steph was talking about there, it's this back button that you use to get back to the original map view.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, there's a question here that says, do the zones automatically update or do we have to manually update? And I don't have enough information to understand what the question actually is. If you right-click and edit a zone here and save that change, it automatically updates. You can type a little bit more information about what you mean by update.
Yeah, so if you do edit the zone or move the zone and you need to reprocess the data, there is still the reprocess functionality found under the rules here, which is where it was originally in 5.5. It's just up here in the top right instead of the bottom left. So if you do need to reprocess the data and to include historical information into the change that you just made, this is where you go to do that.
Yeah, and, they added, so the additional note they said was when adding a zone.
It usually will trigger you to do a reprocess.
Yeah.
You'll see a little pop-up that says, do you want to reprocess? I find that if I'm doing a bunch of zone edits and adds and funky stuff on the map, I'll say no when it pops up the individual ones, and then I'll go in here and do a reprocess on the whole database at one time.
You bet. That's a very good recommendation.
Heather, would you go back to the map for just a second, because the hide show zones in the map view under view, it's there. It's just instead of being along the left-hand side, a lot of the same things that you did under view in 5.5, it's under the view here. This is where you show hide zones, show and hide the traffic. You can turn that smart legend that shows up across the bottom when you're looking at trip data. The legend button turns it on and off. And turning things on and off is one click turns it on, makes it blue. One click turns it off and makes it, the regular color.
Dark blue and light blue, yeah.
Dark blue, light blue, good answer.
So when I click on show hide zones here, and when I drop this down again, you'll see that it's dark blue, indicates that all the zones are visible. And when I click on it again, it hides them. And then you'll see that it's light blue. Okay? Okay, so before we sign off here, there's one more thing that I quickly wanted to show you guys, and that is this new addition to the new addition report under engine and maintenance. It's called the fuel usage report. It is actually extremely useful. Very simply, if I click on this in a very simple way, I'm simply going to choose my particular vehicle here. You can choose any vehicle. And now we have the ability to quickly give you guys an idea of the mileage that you are gathering from your vehicle. Now there is a caveat here that we're not able to obviously capture fuel data on every single engine type out there. Particularly, and Steph, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but newer vehicles, 2010 and newer, probably a good chance that we're going to be able to get this data. Older vehicles, we're going to have a harder time simply because it's just not there for us to get.
Yes.
It's just not on the ECM.
Yeah, if it's not there, it's not available.
Exactly, you bet. So I simply clicked on the fuel usage. I chose the vehicle that I wanted to. You could choose, of course, multiple vehicles. That's not a problem. This vehicle, for this date, again, drop the options down. You can choose the date that you want to view. It's giving me that I was doing 8.6 liter per 100 kilometers. And that is for today. I drove 38 kilometers. The fuel that I used was 3.28 liters. I idled for 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it actually talks about zero speed. Now, zero speed fuel usage here is in reference to how much fuel you're using at any time that your vehicle is going zero speed, whether you're at a stop sign, stoplight, idling. So it gives you an idea of how much fuel is wasted at going zero speed. Never mind, your idling rules that are out there at 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is.
This is based on what the engine ECM says was consumed when there was no road speed on that engine. So it's a little different than what we call engine idle. So don't be confused if the numbers don't match up exactly from the fuel usage report to an idle summary report that you would see elsewhere, because it's not measuring idle the same way. Okay, I think, Heather, we're about out of time for today's session. I think we have another one just like this scheduled for next Wednesday.
We do
same time, same sandbox. And we are going to cover the same data in these training sessions because there's lots of customers and not everybody